All right, Fat Boys League, week 3 in the NFL gave us everything. Pop culture mix-up, blow-ups, upsets. I was in the mountains trying to watch the Jays game and football at the same time. Hecticness all over. But before we get to the week 3 in the NFL, I do want to make one comment based on the chat group, and I want eye contact if I can on this one. It's tough, but Ben, I'm sorry if you took offense to me being in multiple leagues. I knew when we made this arrangement, I told you I didn't want to be exclusive. You knew I was seeing other leagues. The channel's not hidden. It's got multiple streams. So yes, I made a channel listing within the channel that's just Fat Boys, but each of the leagues I run do. It doesn't mean you're not special to me, league. Ben, you mean a lot to me. And trust me, when I'm playing against you, as I was this week, I was just thinking about you. I wasn't thinking about the rest of them. So when you have me, you have me. Just don't try and cage this bird or fish. I'm losing the analogy. Anyway, let's get going on to week 3 in the NFL. Putting fantasy slightly on the sidelines, let's look at week 3 stories. And for this week, you can't get past Miami. Now, that is also a fantasy story because if you were playing someone who had someone from Miami, or most people from Miami, or had some on your bench in your lineup, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But 10 touchdowns. You get 35 and 35 even going. The numbers and the stats, if you care at all to take a look at it, they're through the roof. Having 2 4 touchdown players, having, well, 3 if you include a quarterback, but 4 in terms of skill, or 2 in terms of skill players. Having somebody have effectively 80 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns, 60 yards receiving, and being the second highest running back on their team. A-Chain coming out and literally getting maybe 1 fantasy point in the first 2 weeks, and now he's the RB5. He's the 5th highest scoring RB in most formats. Even more impressive, I just watching the score, it was reminded me of years ago in the World Cup when I think the Brazil-Germany game where all of a sudden it just started in one way and you just kind of saw it soaring and poor Brazil just couldn't get anything by. I even remember in high school back when Florida State was doing all the illegal stuff and everyone knew it, but we hadn't called them on it yet. They started off the college season against BYU, and I believe the announcer actually said as the kickoff was happening, well, this one's almost over. I've never seen that in the NFL before. 10 touchdowns. Making Sean Payton's return to Denver not look super great. Maybe he has to go back and film a new Netflix story. Kevin Smith probably is embarrassed to even be in a movie where he was supposed to be associated with him. Maybe the worst choice for a biopic since the octopus humping guy. I actually haven't seen that one. I'm assuming that's what it's about. Next up, pop culture and football coming together. I'm not going to talk about it too much. I'll make some references to it later on. But obviously people know Taylor Swift was in the booth to watch Travis Kelce. She has to be the smartest marketer I've ever seen. Now, maybe they're in a relationship and this is true love, but she is tackling demographics like no one I've ever seen. I mean, she's already got a certain population of youth, and I think there's an age group where everyone below at least knows of her and probably follows her way more than people above. What didn't she have leading into this summer? Dads or parents. To hear the amount of stories of especially dads probably that were taking their kids to Taylor Swift concerts all summer long, the buzz was getting bigger. Now she's winning over football fans. If you've been on any social media platform, all we're hearing is apparently now Swifties care about football and they're going to somehow change or revolutionize doesn't matter. Jersey sales, I think Kelsey's number 2 now in the league. You can't match her enthusiasm, her business savvy. Absolutely killing it. But then to drop an F-bomb in front of Kelsey's mom, I don't even think a script could be as great as this. On to actual football stuff. For those of us who've been watching football for a while, it's not abnormal to have the NFL go a little bit crazy. Week 10, week 12, we start seeing some teams fall or overlook teams, and there's some upsets or huge blowouts or big scores. Week 3 is kind of new. I can't remember the last time it was this crazy this early, and we have so few undefeated teams left. But if we were in the 80s, we'd probably say something like NFL's on crack, but that's because it was. Now I'd say maybe NFL is just trying to explore itself and figure out who it is and maybe not be so pigeonholed to labels. But either way, if you were someone who had A-Chain on your bench, which is probably everybody who had A-Chain, now you got to look at every bench player as a maybe 70-pointer that's just waiting to bloom. So I don't think there's any bad starts or bad sits coming into week 4. So before we get to week 4, however, let's take a look at week 3 and our matchups. All right, starting off with just a nard kick for V. Second highest scoring team in the league. Let me double check that. Do the math and just barely, but still second highest team in the league. But bumps against a monster 170. Unlucky, pal. And we're going to get to that in the next matchup as well, because it looked like our top 4 scorers all played each other. So way to go, Yahoo scheduling. Go pound sand. So for V, I can't really even make fun of you. Herbert was our QB1 this week. Chase, not in our top 5, but finally worth the pursuit for you. You're getting Laporta, which was our tight end one. Miami should get 20 extra points just for their offense scoring so much, although maybe they don't need it at all. Evans, like I think I said last week, is destined to get his 1,000. Really, it was just your running backs that suck because everyone else overperformed or did, I'm sure, performances that you would take any given week. So maybe just taking a look at your depth down here, you might need some running back help because I see an empty basement here in terms of people that I could see you coming on, but obviously I'm over, so don't even listen to me. Jake, killing it on this one. I mean, we can point to the people who didn't. I mean, that was an anus performance. I'm going to make that joke every week, by the way. Your tight end, I think it did outscore Jake Ferguson, so I can't even make that joke. Baltimore, I thought they'd get more against Indy, but everyone else, come on. You can't complain about this as an effort. Mike Williams is hurt. As far as I know, I think he's out for the year, so you're going to have to make a waiver wire pickup. There might just be a couple people, considering no one has our RB1. Let's see if people can take him and have the guts to actually play him. Hill, obviously, consistently going off for you. Allen was the big one. That's 2 weeks in a row that he's going after it. So while Herbert benefited one side, I'd say arguably Allen benefits you even more. So well done, Jake. Top score this week. I have to double check in terms of 170 in terms of how we've done year-wise. And you might be getting some help coming back, although your bench looked a little skinny this week. Let's see how it breaks down. But congratulations, huge win. V, I feel you, which is the game I'm about to get to. Sorry, buddy. All right, I can't complain as much as V, but I can still complain because the 4th highest scoring player played our 3rd highest scoring player. Yahoo, you suck. Anyway, congrats, Ben. You're 3-0. You're top of the mountain. How'd you do it? I mean, not the running back one overall, but since he's in free agency, the top running back that we actually started collectively. So congrats there in Monster. And just in general, your running backs were monsters. They were enough to almost be in the 2 positions alone. Throw in Mahomes and you probably would have locked it down. So consistency across the board. Didn't really have a huge tank. And I mean, if you're going to do it, tight end's not the bad place to do it. You did leave Mattson on the bench, but you didn't really need him. For me, I did leave some points on the bench. I have 2 of the top 5 scoring defenses, and I think legit defenses, just period, on my team, but you can only start one of them apparently. My running backs did not quite help me out except for Walker, so there's a little bit of a letdown there. It's nice to have Kelsey back. 2nd week in a row, he found some blank space in the end zone. Scores 2 for 2 here, so if he keeps that going, I'll be happy. And I'm certainly happy with my wide receivers. I am not happy with Trevor Lawrence. I'm not even going to pretend I am. No, have him in multiple leagues too. He was supposed to be good. Turns out he's, I'm not going to settle for Let's see how much longer I can bear it, especially since our quarterback 2 is actually a free agent. Who knows? Maybe we have to go and get him. Anyway, enough about me because no one cares. It was supposed to be a close matchup. 14 or 12 points is pretty good, but ultimately, if, ands, or buts, I can't really even shake it to you. Even stole. I mean, I'm Falco's footsteps in 1 or 2 of my other leagues, and Keanu Reeves and the replacements is my avatar. So every time I look at you, Ben, I can't get mad at you. Congrats, buddy. You're first, 3-0, top of the mountain. Doesn't get any better, pal. Another close matchup, not the 12 points of the last one, but 14 is still pretty close. We had Horst over Whalen here. How'd he do it? I mean, the old hits. Hurts did fine. Jefferson was his guy, Turns out, though, it was really the Kraft dinner. It was the KD, kicker in defense in Cincinnati, coming out with a huge kicker performance. I mean, 250-plus. You can't even bank on that. I'm sure Whalen threw something at the television. Fortunately for him, too, he had the guts to win the waiver wire last week, and then he took his Ford out for a spin. Turns out Cleveland just likes handing the ball to anybody, and they seem to be doing quite well. So that made up for your Hall performance the week before. And again, 128 is going to win you most weeks, so well done, pal. Whalen is unfortunate because you did have some good performances, right? Adams was our wide receiver 2, and Hawkinson, I think, is just around the top 5. Cook's getting what you should, and Etienne came back to form. Unfortunately, Ridley hasn't been all they're cracked up to be, and as someone who has Trevor Lawrence in a lot of leagues, neither has Trevor Lawrence. And Gutsy, you went Jets defense against your Pats. I kind of thought they'd score a little bit more too. They do have a good defense. They just didn't get a lot of the intangibles, no picks or fumbles or anything like that. You are still battling your massive injury issues. I've heard optimistic things about Richardson. We'll see about Eckler as well. I think if they return to form, I think you're a totally different team. Pacheco's got to be as frustrating. He's the herpes of fantasy sports. He's on 1 week, off the next. Had a horrible week for you last week. Came up and would have been helpful this week, but those guys are always tough to place. Either way, tough one, Waylon, but don't worry, you still got your win at least, and that's better than some of us. And congrats, Kev, you're 2-1, man. All right, in our blowout of the week, 32 and change, but that tells you on Yahoo, so you probably already knew that. We had Underhill taking care of business against B. How did it go down? He did have, Zach Moss was a top 5. He was our RB4 this week. Allen not cracking the top 5, but doing just fine. Same with Diggs. That killer combo can help you out. This is the first week where they both met or exceeded their predicted, so well done there. Kittle was a top 5 tight end for us as a tight end 5, so well done. Your Dallas defense, though, I'm sure you were more than disappointed. Now, you are dealing with some obvious injury issues that you see down here, but you held strong, Justin. How did B fall on his face on this one? It's unfortunate because a lot of these guys have been going off. Nico had a huge week. Your running backs had a huge week last week. So whoever played you last week is probably pissed off that this is the week it broke down. You even have a sneaky defense in Kansas City who I actually think is a real-life good defense who does also do well in the fantasy venue. You had your low end from Paka Nakua, and unfortunately it all just kind of amalgamated. Now, you did leave some points on the bench here, but it is what it is, my friend. Low score, 85, you're dipping low here because now, fortunately for you, there's a couple people who can't get in on the win column, but your total points scored might be an issue later on. But you'll be back to play another day and fight for a win in week 4. Underhill, congrats, buddy. Second in the league, undefeated. Can't do much better than that. In a week of nut kickers, I can talk about how frustrating it is to score points and happen to go against someone else who scores points. But it is pretty disappointing when you exceed your predicted and you fall just less than 1.5 points short, especially when you know anytime it's under 5 points, odds are there's something you could have done to figure it out. We don't want to dwell too much on that. Props to you for starting Burrow. I know it's probably tough coming into the Monday Nighter, but it's not like Jones would have done any better for you, so well done there. That was actually a great decision. Unfortunately, you got sucked into the Chicago vortex, and instead of Komet, if Freiermuth would have been there, but let's be honest, he hasn't exactly been lights out, so I'm not blaming you. You clearly are dealing with injury concerns, but you got to feel bad about wasting that huge Buffalo effort on your bench. Mark, you did just enough, you sneaky little jerk. You're still in 4th place. You did quite well here. You did just enough to win. So while you were underperforming on pretty much all of your wide receivers, even most, your running backs didn't really show up. Mixon and Pollard did just fine, but didn't blow the doors away. Now you do have Cousins, who's been, I think, the only quarterback in our top 5 3 weeks in a row. So there you go. Props there. And you were smart enough to bench your bear, and you're dealing obviously with your Montgomery issue here, but you did enough. A win is a win is a win, and you're top 4, which means you're sitting pretty in a league that does end up quite tight. You want to make sure every win counts and every points for kind of sorts you out. So congratulations, Mark, and Chaz, don't worry, buddy. Next week, we're both getting out of the basement. I haven't actually looked unless we play each other. That would be unfortunate or fortunate. I'm not sure yet. Anyway, buddy, keep it going. You'll get your W. Mark, congrats, pal. All right, as we move from 3 to week 4. All right, looks like once again, I'm not going to comment on the matchups in terms of point value because obviously we got some changes to make and the waiver wires to hit. Luckily, both Chaz and I do have the opportunity to get our first win. I would have to go against Horst, and I'm projected to lose. He would have to go against the number 1 upset the year kind of candidate here. We got 3-0 against 0-3. I'm cheering for you, Chaz. Not just because Ben beat me. I swear I'm not bitter. But let's see how it all shakes down. Looking at our moves here, we do still have the majority of them near the basement. A lot of you are playing it pretty cool and casual, but I'd say now's the time to maybe jump and make some league changers. So best of luck in week 4. I will have to say I'm changing venues. I'm starting a bit of travel, as I mentioned. So if I'm able to film next week, which I'm really hoping I can, it will be recorded live in Chiang Mai. 2 quick notes, though. Thursday nighter, don't forget it. You got Packers and Lions, so a lot of people have both of those teams represented, so make sure you're paying attention. But the big one to remember, unless I'm wrong, check your schedules. Sunday, I believe, is our first UK matchup, so Jacksonville plays somebody this week and then somebody else next week. So do make sure the start times start a bit earlier if you have those teams. Just pay attention, set your roster a little bit. All right, maybe set your alarm clock or stay up a little later, sort it out, and we should be fine. Other than that, crew, best of luck on week 4.